again this time. Just bring it down a little bit, folks. Speaking of the microphone, it's not very good quality product I've got there. So thanks very much for coming. And this is my live recording of the podcast that I've been doing, called Things I Learn Podcast. So it's basically based on a blog that I write, which is about my kids, which won an award last week, ladies and gentlemen. So we have put the prices up slightly, so if you just want to pay an extra couple of quid on the way out, that would be great. And but thanks for coming. I do literally, I think I know most of you, but the ones that don't know, welcome. So I write a blog about having kids. I've got twin boys who are now 18 months. If you saw me in a comedy club, I'd say I've just had kids, because it's a bit more, current to say that, but it's great to have the kids, and sort of, just, I suppose what I started writing the blog about was because every day was a completely new experience, something new would happen every day. And who's got kids, by the way? Who's got kids?
Yeah.
Okay. Who's not got kids? Okay, so probably more people haven't got kids. This may put you off, I'll be honest with you. Because that's what I've had messages from people who've read the blog, and they've said either, number one, they say, thanks for talking about some of these things that no one else has talked about. Now I do think there are other people talking about them, but maybe they haven't read them. Because they say, it's nice to hear someone admitting that they've got failings and they're struggling with certain things. So that's quite nice. I've had people say, thanks very much. I've had women get in touch saying, thanks very much for writing the blog. I suffer with postnatal depression, and what you've done is actually made me realise that we can just laugh about some of the things that we do wrong. I mean, that's incredibly humbling. That's not what I intended for. But my favourite messages I ever get is from young males saying, I'm never having fucking kids. I've just read this and it just sounds like hell. So, and it is at times, but sometimes it's great as well. I've got twin boys, and they are 18 months, like I said. So I suppose the hardest thing I struggle with is kind of getting. So you've got kids? Is this your daughter with you?
Yeah, one of them.
One of them. Okay, great. Okay, so I was going to ask you how long has she been your daughter for, but that's just a really indirect way of saying how fucking old are you? That's what I'm going to do. So, but obviously you get on with your daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's good, isn't it?
That's where we're here, aren't we?
Yeah. Well, you'd hope so, wouldn't you? But it's going to be a long night.
She just uses me as a taxi.
Okay. Yeah. Do you still do that? Can you still do that when you're an adult?
Oh yeah. It's forever. Mum's taxi or dad's taxi. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yes.
So are you Delta or Uber, or are you just like your own brand?
Yeah,
just your own brand.
Mum's taxi.
But you never had the tip.
No.
So how many kids have you got altogether? Two. Right. So I don't think I'm going to have any more.
No.
I'm done.
No.
Like two's enough. Because I just get sick of all the questions people ask me all the time when they see that you've got twins. I think it's because as a man pushing kids around in a pram, people think they want to have a conversation. Because they're twins as well, people think it's like some kind of like special attraction. Like it's a, I don't know, Victorian bearded lady or something. They're all like, look at the twins, let me touch the twins, and they're grabbing the cheeks and stuff. And it's really, really off-putting. And I don't mind a conversation. Thankfully, we're doing a podcast. However, I don't mind people like just kind of getting stuck in, and people are really rude, and people are, I think, stupid. Because the most common question I get when I'm pushing my kids around in the pram is, number one is, are they twins? Which is like, why are you asking that? Got these two kids in the same pram wearing the same clothes with the same face? Yes, they're fucking twins. Yeah. Isn't it clearly obvious? Are they twins? And it's all double trouble. It's like, yeah, fuck off. You know what I mean? I don't say that obviously because I just go, oh, thanks. Yeah. And I suppose I could have prepared for that one because I've probably done it myself when I see. I mean, I saw a woman pushing triplets the other day. And I said, oh, triplets! And I thought, I've just become the person I hate. And she's just going, and she looked at me and I went, I've got twins. And she looked at me and just said, I do not give a shit about what you've got or what your life is. I'm just struggling, I've not slept since November. I really don't need the conversation. But the most rude question I got was, because you've got twins, haven't you? You've got twins?
I have.
Yeah, so, and your twins are?
Boy and a girl.
Boy and a girl.
Non-identical.
They're non-identical. No, because I was never sure. I thought you could have identical twins even if they were boy and a girl. because I thought it was not. I mean, that sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? I'm saying it out loud, 'cause I know the difference between a Willie and a Fanny. I know the difference. I've been to Bangkok and got a bit confused, but that's in the past. But I didn't know. I thought it was something to do with like the DNA structure or something like that. But I'm looking at you like for some kind of confirmation. I know it's the truth. But so how old are your twins? Your twins
Now
are
it's 28.
28 and one just got married.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so 28, right? So you might have gone through some of these questions. Although I don't know whether these questions would have been current 28 years ago. But certainly nowadays, people have to ask you how the kids were, how they were conceived. Like, which I just think it's very rude, isn't it? If it's like, you wouldn't ask anyone else. If it's like a single kid, how were they conceived? You'd be like, well, it was sexual intercourse, wasn't it? No, but how? You're like, well, the wheelbarrow, I don't know, you don't know your position, are you? Whereas when it's twins, they want to know the ins and outs. That's a bad use of phrase, but you know, they want to know how it happened. So basically what I mean is people say to like all the time at the beginning, they kept saying, were they spontaneous? Which means, were they natural conception or fertility treatments? Now, I'll be honest with you, if I've just met you on the park at 10:30 on a Tuesday morning and I don't know your name, you're not getting that information from me. It's a little bit forward, isn't it? And in the end, people ask you that many times, you think, I'm just going to tell you. People say, were they spontaneous? I'm like, unfortunately, no, they weren't spontaneous. Are you happy now? You made it awkward, haven't you? They weren't spontaneous. I'll be honest with you, it took a bottle and a half of wine on an empty stomach before she'd even go upstairs with me, to be honest. It's spontaneous. Even then, I had to lie, say the Sky Plus was broke, so she didn't turn that frigging telly off. And even at that point, another 40 to 45 minutes of what I call foreplay and she calls begging, before we even got to the 3 most magical words in any married man's life. Go on then. You know what I mean? It's a great sentence. Although now my life's changed where that's not even the best sentence. By the way, I'm 38 and I never thought I'd be 38. No one ever thinks they're going to get old. Everyone always thinks they've got an age that they're going to stick at. I think mine's 23. That's always the age I see myself at. And I can't. I know. Thanks for laughing at that bit. But I do like. I always just see myself as a bit younger. But now, like, my life is proving that that's not the case, because the best sentence in my vocabulary nowadays is still 3 words, but it's not go on then. It's make it quick. It's just like, what has happened here? You know, where's the romance gone? Make it quick. Make it quick for me. I think for a lot of married men of a certain age is a great sentence, because not only is it giving you permission, it's offering no expectation of quality whatsoever. Saying this is going to be terrible, but I've got a schedule, so let's get through this. Come on, jump on, just do your worst, hurry up, and don't move me Kindle, I'm reading that. You know what I mean? The romance does go a little bit, which is a shame. But I spoke to my nan. She died when she was 82, and she said, do you know what? I've always just felt about 78. What age do you think you've stuck out in your head? Have you got it?
40.
40? Okay. So.
I quite enjoy being 40.
Oh, well, that's a good job that you stuck at that age, isn't it? Yeah. Why was 40 so good?
I don't know, I had all these shag me. I was just happy, learned to drive, had my freedom, so.
Yeah. Got your taxi for there.
Yeah.
So you had your freedom for like a small amount of time, and then it became a taxi.
Yeah.
40 is a good age.
It wasn't a bad age, no?
Yeah. So
I've only got 2 years to go.
I've only got 2 years to go. Jesus Christ, you're a good memory, haven't you? Your son's coming out to beat the shit out of me. You know,
It's a girl, that's why.
Oh, it's a girl, okay, alright. So I'm making it awkward now. That's alright. So, have you got an age that you've stuck out in your head?
40, yeah, definitely.
40, yeah. 40 seems to be a pattern. How old are you, John? Do you mind?
48.
48, okay. And why was 40 so good? Was it something?
I got divorced.
Oh, right, okay. Got your freedom. Got your
I've
freedom.
been police for another 20 years.
You waited for 20 years, yeah. Some people learn to drive, some people fuck the wife off. You know what I mean? It depends what's easiest. Did it take you 3 attempts like a driving test? So you got divorced.
No, it took you 1 attempt.
It took you 1 attempt, just bang, yeah. No major errors, just straight in, yeah. Don't even need a provisional. So, yeah.
I actually thought she was an evil twin.
Oh, really?
But I never met her twin.
Oh, she was just, yeah, the other twin, who knows? Yeah. Well, we're in the comedy environment, so joking's actively encourage folks, so don't worry about that. You say something, no one's going to take it too seriously at all. So I'm glad you're filming this for my live DVD that I'm releasing for the Christmas. It's for the 8th. I just always feel like I'm getting older. Like, I'd say things like, I remember being terrified. Well, I remember like when I was a kid, like if a gang of kids were messing about, like younger kids, and you chased after them, they used to see you coming and run away. Whereas now I'm at the age where if I see a gang of kids, I'm shit scared of them, you know what I mean? I'm joking about your son/daughter, whatever it is, coming after me. But like, I was in my mate's car, this is about 18 months ago, driving along, and there's a gang of kids throwing stones at cars, and we just thought, well, this isn't right. So we stopped and we thought, we'll just give them a message, we'll give them a warning. And we stopped the car and we jumped out and we started to like run towards them, thinking they'd shit themselves and run off and never do it again. And they saw us coming and they just stood there waiting. And we were like, what do we do now? Like, played our cards, so we just ran past. We didn't know what. They started chasing us. We were like, that shit, where are we going? Get the knees up, come on. We're going to miss that train. So I think age matches up on all of us, you know. Really. But certainly, like, in my life, I suppose the big change of having a kid is that, like, you've constantly got responsibility, you've constantly got something to do, you've constantly got things to be aware of and things that you've got to make sure are safe, which you've never had before, which is just a massive change in your life. And when my kids were born, with having twins, it logistically it's a nightmare, like at the beginning, because there's just two of everything, and you know, one of them wants you to pick them up and the other one wants you to pick them up, and you only got like, well, you've got two and them. The big fatties, they weigh quite a lot. Like a week, and be back. Just this weekend, my back's going, I don't know what, I feel like I've been doing the hula hoop for like a month or something. I've just got this like pain around it, and maybe I've got some kind of tumour, I don't know what it is, but it's definitely, I shouldn't joke, I should get it checked out, but I get dead stressed, like really stressed about the tiniest thing. You know, sometimes you just need to, I don't know, take a deep breath and let things happen, but I got really stressed. I remember the most stressed I ever got was getting home from a gig. It was a Saturday night and it was about 1:30, and I got in thinking everyone will be in bed, I'll get in and I'll put the telly on and maybe have a can of beer and just chill out, acclimatise and go to bed, and it'd be lovely. And I got in and the lights were on and I was like, okay, what's going on here? Went into the living room. My wife looked at me with, I wouldn't mind her saying this, but she looked at me with, it was the glee in her voice. She just looked at me and went, they haven't pooed. And then she just went off to bed. Left me with these two ticking time bombs. They hadn't pooed for 3 days. And I was like, oh God. And I thought, okay, what I need to do is do the night feed. Still doing night feeds at that time. Do the night feed, change him, get him to bed. She'll get up at like 4 in the morning. She'll get the shitty nappy. She'll get the explosion and I can just wash my hands of it, pardon the pun. And I changed the first twin and he was alright, he was okay, he was just like, you know, getting on with it. And I picked the second twin up and I didn't hear a noise, it wasn't even a smell, it was more of a feeling in the room. The emotion changed, there was just a weird sort of change of atmosphere that was palpable. And it was like, oh, something really bad's happened there, and I know what it is. I just opened it. Basically, I felt like I was playing Deal or No Deal. You know when you open the box, it's like, come on, please, God. You know when you get a shit when they go, it's all right. It's clearly not all right. They fucked the game up. But I was like, oh God, and it was just this. Oh, I'm not going to go into details. Horrible. And I thought, well, at least I can just change it, and you know, it's messy, but it's going to be okay. But that was the moment my son decided to start kicking his legs, like, and not even just like kicking his legs, like he was having a hoedown. He was like, "Yeah, Daddy, we're gonna have a hoedown tonight, baby!" And he was just kicking both his legs. And all of a sudden, all the poo on the changing table, it was like, you know those penny pushers at Blackpool? The coins off, and it was just like, I was going everywhere. I was panicking. And I was like, oh God, and I had it on my hands, and I was like, oh God, it's all over the curtain, all over the wall. I was like, this is, and at that point, they were 4 months old at that point, and I was just thinking, this is horrible. Like, I genuinely wasn't enjoying it, and I thought being a dad would be the most amazing, rewarding experience, and I was just looking at the whole thing going, this is awful. All the books I read, none of them mentioned this feeling. All the friends I spoke to, they never mentioned about this horrific event. They never talked about, you know, feeling like you want to pull your hair out. Not that I've got any to pull out really. Loads on me back, ladies. Never talked about that, and I'm just thinking, this is shit. I genuinely just I hated every second of it at that point. And then something happened which completely blew my mind. My son laughed. He never laughed. And he looked me dead in the eye. Now, I don't know if he was laughing because he kicked shit all over the game, but he laughed. And everything just crumbled away. Like, all the previous 20 minutes of just this shitastrophe that was going on. Just this amazing, like, awakening of, this is what it's all about. And a tear was dripping down my cheek, and I just wiped my hand, and now I've got shit on my face. I've got shit on my face! Shit all over my face. That's parenthood, isn't it? Happiness, but shit on your face. I think that's kind of Gav, if you know Gav, I know some of you know Gav, Gav's been running the Funny Looking Fringe, which is on in this venue. How many shows, Gav?
472.
472 shows in...
38.
38. 438 shows in. There were 38 shows. A very eclectic mix of shows, isn't it?
Yeah, they've been a big range and all different styles and loads of people from around. As I say, local people, but people we brought in, people who've never gigged in Liverpool, people who've been really pleased to gig in Liverpool, people who want to come back.
Yeah,
so it's been good.
Which is great. Yeah. But I'm interviewing you here for long.
No, that's it. But here's the thing. Okay, so am I the only person in the room who's not done the course with you?
I think a lot of people have done the comedy course, haven't they? You two have. You two volunteering. You haven't, but you know, sign on later. You haven't. Why? I think everyone on the back has, apart from the lady there who's with someone who's on the course. So basically a big comedy pyramid scheme I'm running here.
So I'm going to start with a question that ostensibly would come across as like jealousy.
Okay.
But I'm all right with that. How long have you been doing the blog? You started just after the birth.
Was it? Yeah. So about 17 months.
But it's fair to say that and it's okay 6 it's out there that it wasn't easy for the first few days, was it?
The first week or so, yeah, was pretty rough. Yeah, because one of them had to have an operation on his. He had a blockage between his stomach and his bowel, so we had to have an operation on day 1 of his life. I've never had an operation in 38 years, but he had an operation on day 1, so we had to get taken to the Alder Hay from the women's. So it was horrible. He was taking an ambulance, a little ambulance for babies, and the amount of, special things they had to put him on to get into Alder Hay. And then I drove to Alder Hay to meet him there, and I got there about an hour and 10 minutes before him because they just go so slow and a lot of speed bumps. So
because I remember that blog coming out, and it was really powerful, and very thoughtful and very resonant. And then the blogs kept coming. But now, and so here's the question: how does it feel that when you put something out on Facebook, you're basically drizzled with likes and shares? This blog's really popular, as you know. You've just what was it you just won?
Best new blog 2016.
So fantastic. The blog has really found its audience, isn't it?
Yeah.
Joking aside, how's that been for you? How, as a new parent, has that influenced you as a parent, if at all?
It's great to have an outlet for something. I think that's what I wanted to do at the start, was have an outlet for what I wrote, because I do stand up, I do the comedy clubs every weekend, and that's great. But you can't really you can talk about what you want, but you've got to make sure you make everyone laugh for 20 minutes constantly, or else you haven't really done your job. So certain gigs you've got to go in a different direction. So it was really nice to be able to get an audience for writing stuff, because I've never really written anything before.
Some serious stuff as well.
Some serious stuff. Yeah. Oh, I mean, I'd say the first 6 months of the blog was it was told with a humorous eye, but it was certainly, some subjects were very, very serious, and trying to write about that. So not just getting people liking stuff because it's funny, but getting people liking it because hopefully they like the way it was written.
And you've got a particular style, haven't you? I remember you started not only with the blogs, you had the lists as well.
Yeah.
Where did they come? Was that the comics instinct in you? Was it an exercise, or was it a desire to reach new audiences?
No, the list was totally. Do you know what? It was 12 months ago this weekend that I did the first list, because the comedy festival was on, and I had no time to write a blog, and I hadn't written a blog for a while. So, Helen's in, everyone.
Yay!
1 second, love, I'm just getting interviewed myself. Interviewing me. So, but yeah, so that was a year ago, and that was purely because I suppose a cynical person would go, well, people like lists, they're very accessible, and perhaps that's how I view them now, because I think,
but in simple terms, they're very, very funny.
Well,
and I think they're funny, genuinely, both as a parent myself, but also just as someone who, I enjoy your blog, and I enjoy lots of blogs, but it's just, those lists really, really resonated, and I think perhaps it was with the mist of time as a parent who, my kids now can wipe their own bums mostly. But it's like, there is part of me that reads it and goes,
yeah.
I'm glad it's him, not
me.
Me.
Yeah, exactly, and it's like what you said, it's going to get worse, or that's going to happen to you. That's what a lot of parents have done. I suppose from a practical point of view, it's meant that if I've got a problem with something, or if I'm struggling with something, I suppose as a comedian, you're very used to bearing your soul on stage and being honest about stuff. So people gave me a lot of positive comments at the beginning saying, "Oh, I'm just really glad someone's being so honest about it." But as a comic, I'm just like, well, isn't that what you do? Otherwise, it's not funny, is it? If you just go, if you put that Instagram filter that makes everything look perfect.
Instagram works.
Instagram? How good's that? Makes everything look shit. Look at this wedding photo. It's like those when they have like crackhead celebrity filter thing. Anyway, I digress. But yeah, to have, I suppose as a comic, you try to speak the truth. You try to say it with as few words as possible, and that's probably makes it easier to read, and especially amongst I mean, there's so many parent blogs, and so many of them are just very badly written, or they're written in a way that's, "Today was fabulous. He smiled and then he passed me something. Oh my god, my kids are amazing." Like, whoa! Who wants to read that? I want to read about, "I got shit in my eye today and it was awful." Like, that's much more entertaining, isn't it, than saying something great.
So I've got two questions, and then your guest is here. One, in reality or in the back of your head, is this all material for the baby show?
Do you mean the baby show that happens on an annual basis at the NEC in Birmingham?
Well, that'd be good if sponsors want to
trade show.
Or the Sam Avery baby show, because your last hour was about the teenage rock star you.
Yeah.
Is this work? Hey, come on, give the guy.
But yeah, potentially. I mean, to be honest, I started writing the blog because I wanted to process the thought that I was having, that I had no place and it was all new and it was scary, and I wanted to not forget anything. And as a comedian, if you don't want to forget something, you've got to write it down as it goes. I used to say that on the course, don't I, folks? Back me up, guys. And then the other thing is that I thought it would lead to some material, and it has a little bit, but sometimes I did a gig at Bolton Student Union last week for the Freshers' Fair, and I thought, well, I'll do the opening 10 minutes and only got my kids. And I just looked at them and I thought, they are kids, they're not players at all, so I just did different stuff. So I would like to do a longer show, but I suppose everything, because kids grow up so quickly, now they're not babies anymore, they're toddlers already, and I'm like, all that baby stuff seems so old to me, but
So, and then my last question is, are you censoring what you're writing with an eye on them reading it one day?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah. Well, here's a very little story that will illustrate my point. And I haven't written this blog yet because I just haven't had any time. So, my wife's got a severe nut allergy. Like really severe, like she nearly died in Cyprus once, and but I'll get her next time. And she's really severe, and we ended up in an ambulance and hospital, and she was fine. The next day she was fine, like she just had all the whatever they give her, like it was like Pulp Fiction where they put the adrenaline in, but it was a bit more classy than, you know, some smackhead like writing a felt tip mark on her chest and just jabbing it in. But then the next morning she woke up, we went back to the hotel, and I pulled out my book I bought for, you know, the holiday, and it was called Girlfriend in a Coma. I think that's the Smiths song, because there was all these Smiths lyrics in there. Anyway, because of that nut allergy, the fear was that the kids would have a nut allergy, so we thought we'd better test to see if they've got a nut allergy, and we asked the doctors, what do you do? And they said, just give them a nut. 2016, we give them nuts. And if they survive, they haven't got an allergy. Brilliant stuff, right? So we heard that months ago, and we just thought, we just sort of kept, you know, denying it was going to happen. We just thought, we'll do it next week. And then we did it about 2 weeks ago. We bought, well, I got a bag of peanuts and rubbed the nuts on the back of the leg, which the double entendre, you know, is fine there, isn't it?
No one else was thinking that.
No.
You planted that. Well, anyone else is thinking that. This is not that kind of thing.
So, and they were fine with that, so then we bought some peanut butter, and we put peanut butter on a bit of toast. I took them in the garden, my wife waited the other side of the patio doors, like Breaking Bad, like, you know, like just wearing in the garden. We're in the garden, because the fumes would get to my wife, and...
Of course. Sorry, I was thinking of the other.
Yeah. So, and then we had our shoes on ready to drive to the hospital if anything happened, and I said at the last minute, I said, well, it's silly giving them both peanut butter, isn't it? Because they might both have a reaction, let's just give one. She said, which one? And I went, and I'll say this now, although I will delete this off the podcast in case he listens to it. And
Bleep it.
Yeah, it was Zach who was the one who had the operation, only because Ben Zach's proved himself to be a legend, you know what I mean, and he's just a meathead. So, and Ben's got a bit of eczema, so I thought, well, he might have a bit of a reaction. So, but Zach was fine, and then the following week we did it again with Ben. Ben was fine. So next week, the Nutella experiment happens because that's hazelnuts. So the case continues really. But yeah, so there's your answer. But I'm not going to put that in writing because I wanted to read that. So thanks very much. Can we have an round of applause for Gav? Thank you. And our very special guest is here now, ladies and gentlemen. So I'd like you to please welcome to the stage the very funny Helen Keeler. Put your hands together. Steve, would you like a glass of water? Nice to see you. Okay. Oh no, she's alright. Would you like? I bought you a gift because I know you're a fan of gin.
Do you know what?
There we go.
I spotted it.
Oh, did you spot it?
I'm sure there's a bottle of Bombay Sapphire.
Well, it's yours.
Am I to use this?
Oh yeah, if you want to speak into that, that'd be great.
Can I just say that I have eczema and I don't want you rubbing anything on the back of my legs?
No, don't worry, you'll be asleep in that. I'm going to bleep that out as well. So thanks for coming, Helen. So, do you want to start us off? Just tell us how many kids you've got.
I have 3.
Yeah.
So they deal with it.
Dealing with it's the best way to do.
I think. And I've got a blog as well, and I find that rather than the blog generating material, I find that there's things that I think, oh, this is really funny, and I try it on stage, and it just doesn't work in stand-up, so I use it in my blog instead.
Oh, okay, so it's like a drip tray of ideas, just the stuff that doesn't
work.
But I think there's a lot of ideas, isn't there, which work in one format and not another, so you just got to kind of figure out where the outlet is.
Definitely, yeah, but I don't know about you, but I've got like a massive drawer full of bits written on the back of envelopes, and things like you think, oh, this is a funny line. I'll write that in the screenplay, I'll put that in the play, I'll put that in the blog, I'll put that in the stand-up, and then you think, when am I ever going to go through this drawer? And like, so every so often I'll go through it and think, oh, that's really good, and I still don't bloody do anything with it.
That'd be a great tagline for a beer. When I get that PR agency off the ground, I'll be using that material that's not there.
Yeah.
So 3 kids, so you mentioned that obviously one's going to be 18 and autistic as well. So what I like about your Facebook page is always, I suppose I just covered it briefly, but it's always very honest, it's always very funny, and you often talk about things in a lot of detail, which really kind of shines a light on some of the issues that you may be facing. So in terms of kind of having an autistic child, how does that sort of affect your life, or I suppose it's part of your life, but how do you deal with that, I suppose, is my question.
Well, it's because of course I have it in 2 ways, because I've got bipolar disorder as well. So I have to deal with myself as well as them, which is difficult. But I find that sometimes I put things on Facebook just because they're funny. Sometimes it's quite cathartic, and actually the funny thing has happened in amongst a whole load of really grim stuff. I've thought, right, let's just focus on that. But and I think it helps that my children have got a great sense of humour. Today I was, I don't know if you've seen people doing this on Facebook, the 7 days of love your spouse challenge, as if it's a challenge to love your spouse for 7 days. And you've got to have a photograph of you with your spouse. Well, I'm single and I've been single for 2 years now. So I decided to do the same challenge, but with a photo of me with like a space next to me where the person would be.
Which is right for Photoshop if anyone's good at that.
Someone already said that. After I posted that, I thought, oh God, I didn't even think of that. But then...
It's just the horse from The Godfather.
Photoshopped some gin in there, assuming a bottle of gin. It makes me sound like such a...
Look, there's certain things when I think of you, I always think of funny, honest. I always think of the way you dress, which is very distinct. And I always think of gin. So I thought I'll buy a bottle of gin.
Do you know what? There are worse ways to be remembered. I just put it all on my tombstone.
Yeah,
that'd be fine.
Yeah.
But I put this photo up today, and then I had to go to the doctors with my daughter, and she had a sore neck, and she said, Mum, feel it there. And I had to feel, and I can never, you know, when someone says, oh, this is swollen, look how swollen this is, I think I cannot see anything, I'm useless at that. So So I had to feel of her neck, and I said, oh, I'm just not very good at feeling. And she said, is that why you're single? So yeah.
Because a lot of the stuff on Facebook often is it's often the things that your kids say, which is so funny. It's like just the way you write it sounds like they've just got the most immaculate comic timing when there's, like you said, about this horrible chaotic incident going on, and one of them, it sounds, in my head, the way I read it, it sounds like one of them just steps into the middle of the limelight and just says this amazing line.
Lois was on a roll the other day because we were going to the vintage fair, and we dressed up. Well, I didn't dress up. I just dressed. I normally dress, but she dressed up, and we were going out. And opposite where I live is a Jehovah's Witness Kingdom Hall, and they always dress smartly when they're going in there. And we came out, and Lois said to me, we look much better than them, and we're not even going to see Jesus. Oh, that's brilliant.
She's great.
Yeah.
So how old are your kids? One's nearly 18?
Nearly 16 and 13.
Great, okay. So in terms of like the teenage age, is there an age that you found more challenging than another age? Or?
Well, and this isn't a recommendation. I had 3 children under the age of 5 at one point, and one of them was autistic. And
you survived?
When I look back on it, I think, what on earth was I thinking?
Yeah.
What I thought was, we get it over with in a short space of time. They'll all shuffle on through the ages together. But now, I've got 3 teenagers.
And is that a good thing?
No.
That's a terrible thing?
No, it's not.
That's a terrible thing. Well, you never show.
I've got 2 of them are girls, and so that's...
There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
A lot of hormones in the house. Yeah.
That is.
A lot of hormones in the house. Which is so.
And 1 bathroom.
Oh, 1 bathroom.
Only 1 bathroom, yeah.
But when they were under 5, and you were all there, I mean, in terms of kind of logistics, everyone says to me that it's really difficult to have twins, but they're both the same. One's a minute old than the other one, so they tend to be into the same things. So how was that, having those 3 different ages and different abilities all mixing together?
Yeah, it was really complicated, and you know, you have to as well when you have children of different ages and they're all little. The older 2 want to help with the baby.
Oh yeah.
Which could be potentially fatal. So yeah, it is definitely complicated, and I mean, I do a lot because my eldest daughter she doesn't cope with buses, so I have to give her a lift to college and back. Yeah. And sometimes if there's a break longer than an hour in the middle of the day, she won't stay in college, so I'll take her to college and come back and pick her up and come back and then take her again in the afternoon, and so on. Well, when they were little, I had, of course, one was in full-time school, one was in just doing mornings, and then I had the baby, so I was doing that back and forth to the school every day.
It's just hell, isn't it, folks?
Yeah.
Just sounds like hell.
I mean, if we'd had Pokemon Go there, at least it would have had a purpose.
Yeah, yeah. At least you can get the coins, or what? Is it coins that you collect?
I haven't got a clue, to be honest. The kids have got it. And they say to me, oh, you should get it, Mum. And I think, I've got enough crap in my life.
I've got that drawer full of shite ideas.
I just spent an hour watching Judge Judy. Do you think I need any more distraction?
Is Judge Judy still on? I thought it was Judge Rinder now.
Judge Rinder is the British version, And my eldest daughter has met him because she is studying law, and she did a law competition in London. I think she won it. I probably should know.
See, normally when someone says, I think she won it, means they definitely won it, but I'm not sure how to phrase this. But with Helen, I'm thinking, you probably don't know, you're probably not sure.
I can't remember. But yeah, he was the judge in judging like a fake case that they had to do. Yeah.
And he's on Strictly. Anyway, it's not about him, folks. So, do they get on? Do they get on with each other, the 3?
I thought you meant Ruby and Judge Rinder. I was like, don't think they were together
not
that
sure.
long. Yes, they do get on, but I think it's one of those where when they get on, they really get on, and when they don't get on, all hell breaks loose. So I'm just glad they've got their own bedrooms.
Yeah.
You know, 2 of them are sharing a room, that would be a nightmare, particularly because it would be the 2 girls.
Oh God, yeah, can you imagine that? The arguments
Yeah.
would be insane. The other thing you're very honest about is, and you mentioned it earlier, is about having bipolar. So is that something, do you want to be diagnosed many years ago, or is it quite a...
No, I first started having problems when I was about 20, and they put me in hospital. I'm laughing because, right, I've tried telling this on stage, but people think I'm making it up. When I was admitted to hospital, psychiatric hospital, when I was 21 actually. It was 3 days after my 21st birthday. Yay. And I was in quite a state, and they put me in a ward, and I was in the middle bed out of 3, and I just went and kind of sat there and felt very vulnerable and scared, really. And thinking I didn't really know what to expect from a psychiatric ward. Thought, is everyone going to be mad? And the women on either side of me very, very kindly came over and they said, oh, I just wanted to say you were looking, you know, very overwhelmed, and we just wanted to come and say hello and introduce ourselves. I'm Maddie and she's Dottie. I swear to God. And I sat there and thought, don't laugh, because if you laugh now, they'll cart you off to the padded room because you've been depressed for weeks and weeks. But I wasn't actually diagnosed with bipolar until I was 35, just 6 years ago.
Wow, so
Yeah.
quite a long gap between diagnosis and...
Yeah.
Like, did you...
Which isn't unusual actually, because when people with bipolar are feeling good, they don't go and get help for it.
Sure.
Because they just think, I feel great, let's buy a Ferrari.
Yeah.
And so the doctors don't see the ups so much.
Right. So how does that... How were you diagnosed in the end then? Is that something that you went to voluntarily, or...?
I went to my GP and I said, I don't know what my brain is going to do when I wake up every day. Some days I can wake up and physically not be able to get out of bed and be very despondent and struggle with even the smallest things. Other days, my feet hit the floor before my alarm finishes the first chime, and I'll just like do a million things in a day, buy loads of stuff, and just generally have a great time. One of the problems with the highs is that you think things are a good idea that aren't a good idea. And last winter, it was in between Christmas and New Year, I had a hire car that was really nice, and I wasn't paying for it. And I'd been reading this book about this love story between this couple in the Second World War, and one of them was a fighter pilot, the man was a fighter pilot, and he died. And there's a memorial stone to him in Scotland. And I'd finished reading the book about 7 o'clock at night, and I thought, oh, I'd love to see that. I could just drive there. It was a 9-hour round trip, and I sat there thinking, I'd go in the nice hire car. It'll be lovely. This was during the floods. The flood parts of it that were completely inaccessible. And the only reason I didn't go is because my friend happened to message me, and I said, oh, I'm just about to leave you with this. And he said, do you think that's a good idea? And I was incensed that he questioned my good judgment, and basically I was just fuming with him and had a row with him until it was too late to go. I also had to take the kids somewhere at 9 o'clock the next day, so I had to be back in time to do that, and I thought, yeah, I can do that.
You've got any parents even fucking...
Yeah.
So how does that affect you as a... I suppose 2 questions there. How does it affect you as a parent? How does it affect you as a comedian?
As a comedian, I think it's very helpful, because I think that while there are definitely a lot of days where I think I wish I could rip this illness out of my head. On the other hand, sometimes I feel as if I see every colour in the spectrum, and I think that's, for anyone who's creative, that's a gift really. It can, as well, I never have a problem getting on stage, but there are times when I have gone to a gig and sat and cried in the car outside, and then put all my makeup back on and gone in and got on the stage. And people say, oh, I don't know how you can go on stage. I think, God, that's the easy bit. That's getting there, that's the hard bit. That's the bit that because when you get on stage, it's actually a very controlled environment, isn't it? You know, it's kind of a format of how
it wasn't a name
before
you got it, to be honest, but
you have to slap people down. But,
it's crazy, man.
And as a parent, my children are amazing when it comes to my bipolar, because if I say to them, I'm having trouble leaving the house, they'll say, it's okay, Mum, let's just take your time, it's absolutely fine, and they just completely understand, and it's a very difficult thing for me when I'm talking to somebody one-on-one, and I think, and they're nodding when they ask me about it, and they're nodding, and I'm thinking, you just don't get this.
Yeah.
But my kids do get it, and they treat it as if anyone would treat any physical illness that a parent might have, without taking it on board themselves, without bearing a burden.
Which is perfect, isn't it?
It is
really?
absolutely perfect.
And a gift, and obviously you brought them up well for them to deal with it in that way. Because I think for a lot of people, I do a lot of work with people with mental health issues, and it's something that I like to try and educate myself on. And bipolar is something that I think I know what it is, but every time I hear someone different talk about it in their way, I think, oh, no, I don't know what it is, or I didn't know what it was, because I suppose everyone's experience is vastly different.
Yeah, well, they say about people with autism, if you've met one person with autism, you've met one person with autism.
That's a great phrase, isn't it?
I think that the same is true of bipolar,
Yeah.
probably. There's things that I have in common with some other people I've spoken to with bipolar, but then there are things that are different as well.
Great. I think it's something that, it's something that needs to be talked about a little bit more. I think obviously it's more out in the open than it was, but it's still
I
not.
tell you what, the first time, I'd heard about it as manic depression years ago, but I saw a programme on television with Stephen Fry.
Yeah.
I think it was called The Secret Life of a Manic Depressive, and as he was going through the programme, he was talking about things, and I was thinking, God, I do that. That's just normal. That's normal. What's he talking about? And so at the end, there was a little quiz thing you could do online. They said, this isn't a diagnosis, but it'll give you an idea. And so I did this quiz, and it basically came out really high that I had bipolar. And I didn't go to the doctors because I thought, I don't want to be just one of those people who's seen something on the telly. It's like, oh yeah, I've got that. So I never went. And it was years later.
Because I think I remember that program, but it was many years ago, wasn't it? Yeah. Wow. So if there's anyone in the audience who hasn't done that quiz, worth just Googling it, probably.
Probably nip to your GP if it's high. But, yeah.
If teletext was still going, Bamba Boozler would have. Because I remember Bamba Boozler, and I think this was probably the first sort of mental health awareness campaign that I can remember. So it must have been about 1995. Are we aware what Bamba Boozler is? I think most people, it's like a teletext quiz thing. Bamba Boozler was the quiz host. My dad used to love doing it, and he just disappeared off the telly, and this other guy was there, and about 3 months later, Bamba Boozler came back, and on the day he came back, he said, sorry about that folks, I've had a few problems, but I've sorted myself out now. and then he just carried on, like he just said nothing. It was that total, like, you know, men's way of dealing with it. It's just like, well, a few problems, but I'm sound, so let's just carry on. But he definitely hinted at the fact he had a breakdown of some kind, so I don't know whether that's the link I made between bipolar and Bamba Boozler. So don't take that with you, because it's not based on any bollocks. But I suppose, not wanting to talk about Facebook too much, but obviously Facebook's a way of communicating with people and a way of hearing about their views on the world and how they see things. And I've seen a lot of your posts about your kids and things that your kids have, challenges that they've had and things that they've had to get over and things that you fought for them to get. And before I had kids myself, I was like, go ahead, Helen, nice one. Now I've got kids and I read that and I'm like, yes! It's like you're like a poster girl for like a... I know you joked about the kind of parenting thing, but I do find you to come across as someone who really, really will fight for their kids, if that's necessary.
Yeah. There's an issue I've got with the kids' school at the moment regarding these compulsory school bags, and I'm just going in there with the Freedom of Information Act request to find out how they came to this process. Because I said, I think you're wrong. I was like, you probably won't find many parents who will do that. Right, I'm lodging a request, Freedom of Information Act.
Yeah.
But yeah.
You'd be a nightmare if I was a teacher. But like, if you're someone's mum, that's what you want, and you want someone, you know, getting stuck in.
Well, my mum was a teacher, and for ages I kind of, you know, I thought, no, I've got a lot of respect for teachers, and but, you know, some of them are idiots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, they're just like any group of people. Not like you, obviously. None of you are idiots.
No, you went at the start, just kicking off badly was. A lot of my mates became teachers because there's some great teachers, obviously, like you say, there's some great teachers, but a lot of my mates became teachers because they got to like 34 and just thought, now what?
Yeah.
It's like, and it's like on the menu of careers, teaching is like the chicken fried rice, isn't it? It's like, I don't know what to have. I'll give us number 42, I'll have that one, you know what I mean? It's like, it's just like a lot of them seem to just go in that way, so. But it's great, just to kind of finish us off, tell us about your tarantulas that you've got.
I love my tarantulas so much. Honestly, I can't tell you how happy they make me.
Try, because it's a podcast.
I've got 6 tarantulas. They're all different types. They're all named after goddesses.
Oh wow!
So I've got a few juveniles. One of my juveniles, when it grows up, it's the 3rd largest species of tarantula in the world, so it'll have a lifespan of about 25 centimetres. And she's called Enyo, after the goddess of war.
I thought you were going to say Enya then.
No, she's not goddess or anything.
She's a god of Orinoco.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And then I've got a Brazilian blue. That sounds a bit odd.
Sounds like a
doesn't it?
smear of wax, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, yeah. And she's called Libertina, after the goddess of corpses and funerals. And I've got a new river, Rust Rump. And
Rust Rump?
Yes.
It's like an adult movie
she's
style.
she's kind of a hairy blonde, that one.
Oh.
I like her a lot. That's my type. And she's called Dysnomia, after the goddess of lawlessness.
Oh wow. I didn't know there was this many goddesses.
I've got...
I thought there was like 3.
No.
Like the goddess of love, goddess of... Well, that's the only one I know, to be honest.
Oh, we're not using that one. We've got Persephone, queen of the underworld. She's a white-striped Brazilian bird-eater. And I've got Melanoi, who is the goddess of nightmares and madness. And she's
Good luck sleeping tonight, folks.
she's a green bottle blue. And then I've got the one I got first. When I was 13 years old, I bought a book that was called How to Care for Your Tarantula. And I brought it home and my mum said, no, we are not having that. And then from then, when I left home, I had a bit of a serial monogamist, and every boyfriend I had said, no, we're not having it. And then My last boyfriend, with whom I parted,
He's not dead,
said,
I don't think.
no, we're working on it. He said that if I ever got a tarantula, he wouldn't ever come back in the house. And so the first one I got is a Chilean rose tarantula, and I named her Nemesis after the goddess of vengeance and retribution.
And that is why me and Helen have been communicating for a while about doing this interview, and one of the options was for me to come round to your house and do it there, and I'm really glad to do it tonight in front of a live audience, ladies and gentlemen.
I did say my house is very messy, and there are tarantulas.
And there are tarantulas. You know, you read the message and you go, oh, that's predictive text, isn't it? That television, too much space, you must have looked at television or something. Tarantulas. So, fantastic. So, I suppose my last question would be, before we finish, is that what would you hope for your children? What is your big hope for your kids?
Oh, God. It's difficult to pin down to one thing, but I suppose kind of like as a... I've lost for words. As kind of a one group of things, I hope that they're happy. I think happiness is the main thing above everything else, and then after that, you hope for their health and for them to be able to do the things that they want to in life. And I suppose happiness does come from those things, but I think that happiness is a thing on its own as well. So.
Lovely answer. Can we have a big round of applause for my special thanks for coming, folks, and see you soon. Enjoy the rest of the festival. Loads of shows on here, loads of shows on around the city. Grab a brochure, there's some in the thing, and I'll probably see you all for the Sunday roast when you all come down to mine on Sunday, because we're all good friends now, aren't we? So, thanks very much, folks. See you soon. Cheers.